Bitter criticism from Kill Pueblo, Quilpue City. I just waiting for a movie, and well, I have nothing to do but waiting. I just have to wait here. That's why I'm going to read some news for the regular show. So here we go. This time I'm going to read some Russia Today now. Just 1 second, I'm going to show you. I'm going to take a selfie about this. Just to show you to Ryan Bell, I mean, later. So yeah, Russia Today. There's a news from Lavrov, which is a great spokesperson from Russia, a great diplomat, and says, September 25, 2024, Home World News, Russian victory inevitable, Lavrov. He looks more positive now. In previous episodes, in previous episodes I thought Lavrov was not so confident about the victory, but this is a positive article. Russian victory inevitable, Lavrov. It is the only language the West understands, the Russian foreign minister has said. Yeah, I guess that's the only thing the West understands. Me too, because sometimes Lavrov was depicted as scared, and I was thinking about Russia, the future of Russia, because people say that this war against the West will endure till 2030s, so more 6 years of war. Sounds bad, sounds bad for Russia. And I was always watching the photographs of Lavrov and Maria Zakharova, and sometimes I guess they are scared about the future, their own future. But here we go. Russia's foreign minister Sergei Lavrov attends the 79th session of the UN General Assembly at the UN headquarters in New York City, the United States. Moscow will achieve victory in Ukraine because that is the only language the West understands. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said. Lavrov flew to New York on Wednesday to take part in the 79th plenary session of the UN's General Assembly and hold a series of bilateral meetings before his departure from Moscow. He spoke to TASS. It's been a long time since I didn't read TASS. It's a regular magazine. Before his departure from Moscow, he spoke to TASS about the current situation in the world. Quote, wherever the West infiltrates to fix a crisis, Lavrov told the news agency, quote, things only get much worse. Thousands of victims, devastation, and socioeconomic problems follow. In my years of working in the international arena, there has not been a single case of the West's intervention resulting in anything good. And now we are seeing the same thing with Ukraine and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Asked what the solution to that problem might be, Lavrov was direct. Victory, they don't understand any other language. But I guess this is. I guess Russia doesn't know any other language too. You know, this a geopolitical. This is a geopolitical issue. Well, victory is always what everybody try to achieve. You know. Quote, and that victory will be achieved. We have no doubt whatsoever. And unquote. The veteran Russian diplomat said. Quote, we have truly united in the face of the war that the West unleashed against us with Ukrainian hands, unquote. According to Lavrov, the collective West seeks to subjugate the entire world to its, quote, rules-based international order, unquote, a notion conjured up by the U.S. and its allies about a decade or so ago. No one has ever spelled out that what these rules might be, Lavrov said, aside from letting Washington do whatever it wants in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, the Balkans, Ukraine, the Caucasus, Central Asia, or in the South China Sea. There's a related article, Putin's Kamala endorsement was a joke, Lavrov. Yeah, you know. Yeah, I got the joke, you know. I knew it. I guess I'm going to read that. Quote, they have tried to act everywhere like a hegemon, like an elephant in a China shop, Lavrov told TASS. In Afghanistan, they declared the mission of fighting terrorism. When they fled after 20 years, there were many more terrorists there. Yeah, that's true. In Iraq, they destroy a normal, stable country. Do not mention Libya, which was prosperous. He added, to illustrate how the West was trampled the UN Charter, Lavrov pointed to the 2008 Declaration of Independence by ethnic Albanians in Kosovo, a province of Serbia which has been under NATO control since 1999. The US backed the declaration, calling it self-determination, and pressured the top UN court to rule that such declarations did not require the consent of the central government, the Russian diplomat explained it. But when Crimea held a referendum, unlike Kosovo, following the 2014 US-backed coup in Kiev, the West rejected the principle of self-determination and insisted that, quote, territorial integrity of Ukraine was paramount instead. I cannot agree more with the 2014 episode because Crimean people, they vote to be part of Russia. That's it, they vote. And Donetsk and Lugansk too, you know. Anyway, but I'm a heavy reader of Russia Today. Don't trust me. Well, I have the second news. The related news, September 21, 2024. Home World News. Putin's Kamala endorsement was a joke, Lavrov. The deep state is the real source of power in Washington, the Russian foreign minister has said. And we have a photograph of Vladimir Putin speaks during the main session of the 27th St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, SPIEF, in St. Petersburg, Russia, June 7. Russian President Vladimir Putin was joking when he endorsed US Vice President Kamala Harris' election campaign. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said, the outcome of the election doesn't matter. Lavrov added because Washington is controlled by the deep state. Speaking to reporters in Vladivostok earlier this month, Putin claimed that while he previously favored US President Joe Biden, he would root for Harris since Biden endorsed her after suspending his campaign in July. Harris laughs so infectiously that it suggests everything is going well for her. He added, Putin's endorsement immediately made headlines in the US, while the White House demanding that the Russian president stop talking about our elections. Well, the US want to kill Vladimir Putin. That's a fact, isn't it? So they want to kill Putin, and they want to Putin to shut up. Yeah, such a terrible authoritarian world. Putin cannot speak about it. I hope Putin keeps speaking about, why not? This is speaking, free speech, why not? It's not the free world. I thought it was America. Where's the free speech? Stop talking about our elections. The White House. Putin, quote, has a good sense of humor and often resorts to jokes during his speeches and interviews, Lavrov told Sky News Arabia earlier this week. However, Moscow doesn't quote see any difference between Harris, former U.S. President Donald Trump, or any other American politician, quote, because the notorious deep state is operating in the U.S. I guess well, I read this from Russia Today. What I got from Russia Today is that Russia Today, the Russian government, was supporting Harris. That's what I understood. Anyway, the term "this deep state" refers to the unelected and often unknown government bureaucrats who steer government policy, particularly the leaders of intelligence agencies and the military. Trump railed against the deep state throughout his presidency, accusing its members of obstructing his efforts to withdraw from Afghanistan and Syria, and orchestrating the Russiagate hoax to damage his reputation and sour relations between Washington and Moscow. Putin has asserted before that these shadowy bureaucrats are the real center of power in the US, telling American journalist Tucker Carlson in February that US policy is not about the personality of the leader. It is about the elite's mindset. Yeah. Quote, I have no illusions about the US leader, Lavrov told Sky News Arabia, explaining that while Trump was friendly to himself and Putin, sanctions against Russia were still introduced regularly, consistently, and quite seriously under his administration. Likewise, despite Biden being in such a physical condition that he has not been able to lead the country for a long time, unquote, the U.S. maintains its foreign policy. Yeah. Quote, it continues to the military campaign through the Ukrainian regime, and in other parts of the world continues to block any resolutions at the UN Security Council that demand a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, unquote. There's a related news. White House response to Putin's support for Harris. Yeah, I'm going to read this just for fun. Russia Today Entertainment Television. Quote, the machine is working, he stated, and quote, and it is charged with never having a competitor who will threaten American dominance, unquote. Faced with this reality, Russia must rely on itself, Lavrov concluded. Quote, we will never again in our history rely on the fact that a, quote, good uncle will come to the White House or another Western capital and everything will be fine for us, he declared. I'm not sure about the future of Russia because I just read Russia Today, in Russia Today themselves, they don't look sure about what's going on. You know, sometimes they look insecure. Definitely, sometimes they have this. They publish these articles about how the West is committed to fight them until 2030. It's been 6 years of war and sanctions, you know. And sometimes I think Maria Zakharova is afraid to, you know, they're both, Sergei Lavrov and Maria Zakharova, they looks unconfident. I'm going to read this one. This Zelensky in India, September 25. Ukraine wants Modi to help strike peace deal. Ukraine wants Modi to help strike peace deal. Politico. I guess India is tricky too. You know, India is always tricky. September 25, 2024. India is Kiev's best hope for reaching a pact with Moscow, a Ukrainian official has told the outlet. We have a photograph of Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi and President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky seen during official meeting in Kiev on August 23, 2024. Ukraine sees India and its Prime Minister Narendra Modi as the best choice to broker a peace agreement with Moscow that Kiev, quote, can live with, and unquote. And a high-ranking official has told Politico. Ever since Modi visited both Russia and Ukraine to discuss the conflict with the country's leaders, Kiev has come to, quote, increasingly view New Delhi and its intermediary in dealings with the Kremlin, the outlet wrote, citing the unnamed Ukrainian official. The report comes a day after Zelensky and Modi met during the UN Summit of the Future. Summit of the Future. Lula was there too. Well, you know, it's the India and Brazil, they are controlled. I guess they are more controlled by the West than by BRICS. That's the reality, at least about Brazil. I have no idea about India, but Brazil is controlled by Lula, you know. Lula, there's no future for Lula, I guess. Lula is so old. People in Brazil should started to discuss about Lula's dad, you know, because he's kind of old. Lula's future, Brazil's future, understand? Brazil is super tricky. The report comes a day after Zelensky and Modi met during the UN Summit of the Future held as part of the annual assembly session in New York. The two leaders have met several times in recent months. In June, at the G7 summit in Italy and in Kiev last month, just weeks after Modi traveled to Moscow for talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. July's India-Russia summit was closely watched by the West and was openly criticized by Zelensky, who at the time suggests Modi's trip to Moscow was a blow to peace efforts. Unquote. His remarks did not go down well in New Delhi, which summoned the Ukrainian envoy. The Indian government also objected to Zelensky's subsequent remarks after his meeting with Modi in Kiev, according to former diplomats and foreign policy experts. Well, read more. Modi's peace plan, how India is navigating the Ukraine conflict. I guess India is not so important in geopolitics, you know. Maybe I'm going to read this, if it's short. If it is a short news. Zelensky told reporters that India could be considered a host for the next peace summit if it signs the communique that emerged from the first such event hosted by Switzerland in June. The Indian delegation attended but refused to associate itself with the final document, noting that it did not refuse feature Russia, a condition India considers vital for any serious attempt at ending the conflict. Commenting on the details of Modi's latest discussions with Zelensky, Indian Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri on Tuesday told the media that the talks focus on conflict resolution. However, he noted that, quote, "We are not right now at a stage where the second phase, the second peace summit, can be discussed in any detail." He added there is, quote, "a lot of work that remains to be done before that." But I guess Ukraine is losing the war, I guess this war will end it up when Russia wants, Sometimes in the near future, Russia will, or maybe this war will keep going, will keep going till 2030. Anyway, later on Tuesday, Indian Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar clarified that while India doesn't have a peace plan to resolve the Ukrainian conflict, it does engage in dialogue with both Moscow and Kiev, something that, quote, not many countries or leaders do. He also stressed that at some point there has to be negotiations, and it's obviously has to include both parties. It cannot be one-sided. Meanwhile, addressing the UN Security Council on Tuesday, Zelensky said he has invited India, along with China, Brazil, and other countries, to join preparations for a second peace summit. This second peace summit will be far better than the Switzerland, isn't it? He also insisted that the conflict, quote, cannot be calmed by talks, and that quote, Russia can only be forced into peace. Moscow dismissed the remarks, calling Zelensky delusional. I don't get it. What cannot be calmed by talks, and that Russia can only be forced into peace? What? So, I guess Modi is from the right, India is tricky. Zelensky proposed planned victory, which could supposedly end the conflict with Moscow by the end of the year, has not been disclosed in full. However, reports indicate that it includes, among other points, Western security guarantees akin to NATO's collective defense, and a continuation of Ukrainian incursions into Russia's Kursk region as a territorial bargaining tactic. Zelensky earlier told ABC News that the plan is focused on strengthening Ukraine rather than negotiating with Russia. I will read this Modi's peace plan. If it's not too old, it's too old. It's from September 10. It's kind of 2 weeks ago. Not going to read this. I have no idea about India, I guess India is kind of, I guess it's from the right, I guess it's a satellite, a huge satellite from the US. I'm going to read a whole different story about Germany. This guy is nice. Tariq Cyril Amar, a great. Well, I prefer Timur Fomenko. I'm going to try to search Timur Fomenko, if Timur Fomenko is alive. Well, Timur Fomenko is not alive, not in Russia today. But here we go with Tariq Cyril Amar, a historian from Germany working at KOS University, Istanbul. I guess he's great, but my favorite was Timur Fomenko disappeared September 25, 2024. I guess he disappeared because I found out that he is Anatoly Fomenko. I found out. I'm sorry, Anatoly. because nobody knows the face of Timur Fomenko, you know. I guess it's he. Anyway, it was he. I'm not a CIA agent. I'm just a fan from Chile. Look, September 25, 2024. Home World News. Germany's ruling coalition has stopped at the edge of the abyss for now. It's talking about Scholz, Olaf Scholz. Germany's ruling coalition has stopped at the edge of the abyss for now. Yet another regional election, this time is in Brandenburg, has not been able to break the country's political deadlock. I just said by Tariq Cyril Amar, a historian from Germany working at KOS University Istanbul on Russia, Ukraine and Eastern Europe, the history of World War II and so on. We have a photograph of German finance minister and chairman of the Free Democratic Party, FDP, Christian Lindner, attends a news conference after the state elections in federal state Brandenburg at the party's headquarters in Berlin, Germany, Monday, September 23, 2024. After Thuringia and Saxony voted, Germany has just had another important regional election, this time in the land of Brandenburg. As in the two preceding cases, the Brandenburg election is far more than a local event. Its results reflect and affect German politics as a whole. But Brandenburg is also special because it was the last of the three. We can now assess the results as a whole. We can now assess their results as a whole. The first thing to note is that, to a small extent, Brandenburg has bucked the trend that is of Germany's Social Democrats, SPD, relentlessly deteriorating. Just like in Chile, you know, this there was a social democratic party called Democracia Cristiana, the Christian Democrats, something. They are vanished, you know, they completely vanished. Relentlessly deteriorating. Yeah, everybody knows that. So the far right is winning again. We will see Nazis again. Formerly one of the country's establishment parties, the chancellorship of the party's incompetent, opportunistic and highly unpopular Olaf Scholz has catalyzed its decline from gradual to rapid and most probably terminal. After this was reflected in the regional elections in Saxony and Thuringia, there was a real possibility of a third dropping in Brandenburg, a land the SPD has controlled since unification in 1990. I guess the question about Germany is, they follow the US, they follow the United States, and the US wants them to follow, so I guess that's going to happen. Maybe even I was reading that even car industry, they are going to the US, you know. What's the future for Germany? In that case, so the talk of Berlin Scholz might have been shoved out today. He's a clear liability for the federal elections next year, and the SPD has a replacement ready. Unfortunately, even by current German standards, fanatic Russophobe, bellicist, and NATO true believer Boris Pistorius, now Minister of Defense, enjoys top-notch popularity and may well still push aside the hapless Scholz. I don't know what's hapless, but the SPD managed to win in Brandenburg. If win is the word, it leads the right far right newcomer party Alternative for Germany FAD by less than 2%. It was 30.9% against 29.2%. I guess the Nazis are winning. I'm not sure about. If this had happened as little as 2 years ago, all of Germany would have recognized it for what it really is, another humiliating setback for the Social Democrats. And there's a related news, read more. The AFD is not a problem for Germany, it's the solution. AFD, I guess those are the far right. Yeah, I'm going to read this too. But the baselines have shifted, and so Scholz, the chancellor of discontent, stagnation and malaise, has been spared for now. Nonetheless, one reason why the regional Brandenburg SPD leadership managed to snatch sort of kind of victory from the jaws of defeat is that it made a point about distancing itself from Scholz, including by asking him to please not show up. Polls unsurprisingly indicate that 3/4 of Brandenburg SPD voters did not really want to support the party, but felt they had to in order to defeat the AFD. So very interesting article. The AFD is not a problem for Germany, it's the solution. AFD may have barely failed to displace SPD at the top, but riding high to the key topic of migration, its result is still a clear continuation of its ongoing surge, especially but not only in Eastern Germany. There is a conclusion of fundamental importance for the future of German politics to be drawn now. Massive attempts to eliminate the AFD, including by manipulative and unethical use of mainstream media, government-sponsored demonstrations, and other foul and silly tricks, have failed. The AFD is part of the system now, and is the establishment parties feel like blaming someone, then that will be themselves. Germany is, of course, not ruled by the SPD alone, but by the so-called traffic light coalition. That also includes the Greens and the market liberal Free Democrats, FDP. Both were whipped out in Brandenburg, as in Thuringia and Saxony before the Brandenburg elections confirmed that Berlin coalition as a whole is a walking corpse. Yeah, the Greens, isn't it? And the Social Democrats, the Greens and the Social Democrats. The globalists. While the FDP has always been a minority taste for professionals and the well-off whose political identity largely exhausts itself in hating taxes, the Greens used to be a serious contender for establishing themselves as a new centrist mainstay. Well, Pepe Escobar said the Greens are from the CIA. A new centrist mainstay complete with middle-class complacency and EU value mediocrity. After making key contributions to running the German economy and driving Germany deep into Washington's proxy war with Russia, the two achievements are, of course, mutually reinforcing. That chance is gone. The breathtaking arrogance with which Greens leaders keep blaming the SPD for stealing its voters, and the voters for, in effect, their audacity to vote for anyone else, will only accelerate the party's self-demolition. Yeah, I guess it's a neoliberal problem, you know? A neoliberal problem. Because it's a capitalist problem. Anyway, apart from the AFD, the other big winner of the election was the Alliance Sarah Wagenknecht, BSW, another surging new party. It combines left positions on social and economic issues with conservative takes on culture and lifestyle, as well as migration. Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? I guess that's the solution, you know? I guess that's the key. Yeah, just like that. Combines left positions on social and economic issues with conservative takes on culture and lifestyle, as well as migration. I guess that's the equation, you know? If you want to win the elections, do just that. Think higher taxes for the rich, better schools and public transport, and only two genders. Yeah, only two genders. That's nice. That's sort of attractively sensible thing. Yeah, this wokeism, some kind of anti-wokeism, isn't it? Anti-wokeism. With 13.5% in Brandenburg, the BSW continued its streak of recent successes and beat the mainstream conservatives of the CDU. 12.1% for the CDU. This is a miserable, although expected result. Like SPD, the CDU is in decline. Yet its decline is by no means equally catastrophic. At the federal level, the conservatives have a good chance to head the next coalition government in 2025. Despite the AFD's second place, the mainstream parties will insist on excluding it from the government, democratically and at best dubious procedure justified by, in best EU value manner, defending democracy. For Brandenburg, that means that the upshot of the strong BSW and the weak CDU election results is that the SPD will have to open exploratory talks with both if it wants to form a government, which its leader Dietmar Woidke has already announced he will do. To be precise, no government will be possible without the BSW, while arithmetically at least the CDU could be left out. Yeah, but we have a bad experience from here in Chile. This arithmetical thing doesn't work like that. We had a bad experience of the new constitution, you know. The left was winning and then they blow up. I guess wokeism was a blow from wokeism. That was the problem. Yet under Wagenknecht and her co-leader Amira Mohamed Ali, both experienced and smart politicians, the BSW is very unlikely to either simply tolerate a minority government of SPD and CDU or agree to enter into a coalition that does not sign up to key BSW demands. These include a no to the current government's irresponsible and under-debated decision to allow the US to station new intermediate range missiles in Germany, and a yes to replacing proxy war engagement with diplomacy to end the Ukraine war, unless this SPD managed to split at least one BSW deputy off from their party, whether formally or tacitly. It has no way of ruling with the CDU alone. At the same time, up until now, both SPD and CDU have shown themselves obstinate and unwilling to even consider the BSW demands regarding missiles and peace. But you know, the great question of Germany, the economy is doing terrible. You know, the economy is doing terrible in Germany. You know, there's recession. So Olaf Scholz must go. That's what the people think. You know. At the same time, up until now, both SPD and CDU have shown themselves obstinate and unwilling to even consider the BSW demands regarding missiles and peace. Oidke Oitke has already struck that could be read as a rather condescending tone, declaring that those BSW positions are not decisive, since that matters are only regional issues. With that attitude, he may not get far with Wagensneck party. Anyway, so a huge article, just more 2 paragraphs now. On the other hand, he has a factual point, and at land level, the BSW cannot really do anything about either the missiles or the peace strategy for Ukraine, and its leader know that as well. One way in which this seeming deadlock may end will be if the SPD were ready to accept writing the BSW positions into the coalition agreement in one form or the other, while everyone tacitly understands that at this point that will remain a largely symbolic step. If, however, the Brandenburg SPD is not ready to even that much of a concession, then that will be a sign that it is not serious about cooperating with the BSW anyhow. I guess these Nazis from AFD, they are not so bad because they are not Nazis, I guess. The far right, you know. The worst thing is neoliberalism. Everything is against neoliberalism now, you know. So this far right is not so bad because they are trying to fight capital. If we zoom out again, the key result from Brandenburg remains that, while just about saying Olaf Scholz's political neck for the time being, these elections have not broken the deep trend of a fundamental restructuring of the German party system. The AFD and the BSW are there to stay and still growing. The SPD is on its way to historical insignificance. The traditional conservatives will last for now, but only as one among several key players. The ultimate driver of these trends is that post-unification Germany has failed to successfully recast its place in Europe and the world, as unimaginative policy of same old has left in unimaginable policy of same old has left in stranded with a stagnating economy and unprecedented loss of sovereignty, and no official vision except really hating Russia again. Expect more change and stability until German elites are ready to do some real rethinking. I guess. And guess I'm done. I will not have more time for the next one. I have no time for the next one. But you know, this is a matter. Well, I'll show you this. There's another article here. This is interesting. Look. Well, all of this is interesting, but the question is the neoliberalism. This one. Look. This is the best one. I'm going to read this later, but by now, what's going on is that capitalism is losing, imperialism is losing in the US and in Germany, you know? So Trump will win, I guess. That's what some my Trotskyist party back in Brazil they believe. They believe Trump will win. So if Trump wins and this far right in Germany wins too, well, it's a very tricky situation for the world. So now I'm going to the movie. I was just waiting for the movie time. I guess learning English is still important. I hope it is. So this is Quilpué. It's a city with a great environment. I don't know how to behave in Quilpué. I'm crossing the wrong place.
¿Ven a la película? Adelante.
A ver la película. A ver la película.
Sí, pero tiene que anotarse.
Ah, ya.
No puede ingresar al
Lo puedo doblar.
ahí cuando llegue la señorita lo tiene que anotar.
Pero esto yo no.
Yo